Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's Sandra Turner, founder and host of the G&T Sessions podcast. Today we have an amazing guest, Mr. Jeff Hancock. Welcome, Jeff.
Hey, Andrew. Thank you for having me.
It's good to see you, and I like your headphones. You're looking like it's like Jeff Getter. You like the DJ today?
Yeah, the DJ, tech DJ, yeah, something like that.
So I know it's taken us a while actually to get you on the show, and I think a few things have happened since then. But I know you'll explain that in a second. But it's good to see you today, and thanks for coming on the show. I think we originally met because it's quite active. There's a quite active tech scene in London, and we kept bumping into each other at various different social occasions in the city of London, in and around the tech scene. And I think actually one day was when you were actually on stage, weren't you? You presented, I think, one event, and then you were sat down having a quiet beer at the back, and I side looked and said, "Hello, Jeff. How are you?"
Yeah.
We must get you on the show. So here you are finally a number of months later.
Yeah. Obviously great to be here on the show. Yeah, we've in the tech scene in London, the crypto space in London, layers over with with developers, businesses, startups, founders, blockchain. It's a really, really cool active scene. And after bumping into each other that many times, and yes, doing a bit of a presentation with I believe it was Kanabu at the time.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Really cool yeah, it was kind of like us. I think Wyrix were there. A couple of other developers were there. It was a really, really good event.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of my hectic days. And yeah, you caught me at a time where I was finally relaxing for the first time of the day at about 9 o'clock at night. I said, "Jeff, you should come on the show." And I'm like, "Yes, I'd love to. When are we going to do that?" And that was probably feels like 8 months ago now.
Yeah, exactly. Diary's always a bit crazy.
Yeah, it was a bit crazy. And then obviously we've had COVID and the pandemic kind of kick off, which has been obviously devastating to a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's been a big adjustment for a lot of people as well. I mean, I could safely say that what we do in the crypto space at Coinpass.com, we're a cryptocurrency exchange, is that we were already a remote company when this kind of kicked off, so we were already, geared and weathered and ready for working at home full time and relying on video and relying on audio to, not just keep the business running, but also grow and scale the business, which has been, over the last 4 months alone, has been an adventure. From January to now, has been a complete shift in the business and a complete pivot. From over a year ago to when we first met, just in the networking scene, the business had a completely different name. And I suppose it's just kind of, massively true to, the industry and the sectors that we're in, is that, you have to be able to keep up and pivot and change. But also you need to be forward thinking enough to, to as well shape this part of the industry and not just be a part of it.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I know you mentioned well, you mentioned at least one brand then, but so what does actually get you out of the bed in the morning?
It gets me out of bed in the morning is my 8:45 stand-up call with my team. No, so it gets me out of bed in the morning. I think it's definitely.
Well, you get out of bed at 8:44 then, do you? Something a bit earlier.
43. No, there is. It's a 2-bed flat. I have to go one end of the flat to the other. But no, I think what gets me out of bed in the morning is obviously the job is never done. We have some very large growth goals for the next kind of two to 3 years for our business in the crypto space as being an exchange. There are plenty of exchanges around. Each of them have their own kind of nuances. Each of them have their own, look and feel and their offering. We feel that even in this market, our offering is still unique. Is that we feel there's a lot of disservice rather than even quality service when it comes to customer services and etc. Some of them are not as fast as they claim, and they're not as well priced as they claim. And they still, even to this day, a behemoths like Coinbase and even Binance, they still have outages and reliability problems because their core focus is getting as many either uneducated or punting investors in rather than getting in really professional educated investors that are active in this market rather than just kind of punting, and they have system and tech issues all the time. We've taken an approach of being kind of more pro-regulation, more pro-professional services, because we do connect with banks. We treat ourselves like a traditional financial institution, so we have a very strict and reliable compliance program and onboarding process, and work with anti-money laundering associations, and etc. Not to punish people, but actually to protect our users, because mixing of illicit funds with legitimate funds is a real problem in the UK and other parts of the world. So we're trying to do our bit to clean up the space and professionalize it, because as soon as the space is more professionalized and has regulatory measures and custodians and all those working pieces in between, that's where the real kind of surge in the floodgates are going to come from, is professional money that trusts this industry to deliver, and that's kind of where we want to sit.
So where are you today then? 'Cause I mean, you can probably notice I'm on the beach today because obviously it's July now.
So yeah, I'm in my flat in central London. Unfortunately, not as glamorous as the beach, etc. But hopefully we can get some.
You never know, like Paris has got, Paris along the side of the Seine. They have that during the summer. They put down they put down sand. So maybe at some point in London, they actually put some.
Yeah. We need there was a really cool place I went to in Germany actually, and it was this indoor bar. It was winter, but the whole place is set up like volleyball. So there was volleyball nets, and it was all it was freezing kind of coats and stuff. You come in and you get bathed with heat lamps. So definitely to find the beach in London somewhere. Now that everything's finally opened up.
On the South Bank where the museums are, like the art museums and stuff like that. Just near Blackfriars Bridge, there's I think sometimes when the tide goes out slightly, you do actually get some beach there.
That's a very rocky beach. We have a very different opinion on what beaches are, being Australian. I mean, there's not a beach. That's not a beach. Cornwall's the closest you come to a beach, and it's just cold out there.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot I was speaking to Australians. So you do.
We have a high opinion of beaches.
You speak, the Poms are trying to become, beach bums, but failing miserably with too many pebbles in Brighton and stuff like that. Yeah.
Too many. That's all there is in Brighton is pebbles. But anyway, sorry for the Brighton people. It's still a beautiful country regardless which way you look at it.
So I know you jumped into what you're doing as a business. So your current role is what? What's the business called? What's your role there?
Yeah, so we're at Coinpass.com. So a UK-based business for fiat to crypto. So we're an on-ramp and a trading exchange. A mobile app and our new platform is launching really, really soon. We help retail, professional, and businesses get into crypto and out of crypto by connecting to your bank. I'm one of the co-founders and CEO. So I started the business in January 2018. I was still had a full-time job at the time. I was a contractor and a consultant for the SoftBank Vision Fund, which is one of the largest.
SoftBank, really? Oh wow. Okay.
Yep. So I started with SoftBank when there was about 20 people in the four-story in Mayfair, and I took all of their kind of back-end networking, cybersecurity, and helped scale it across the rest of the business globally. So there's about 10 people in the business when I started. A year and a half later, a year and kind of 2 months later, we had about 150 people in London across 2 offices. We had about 250 in St. Carlos and about 50 in Japan, and we're about to open another 2 offices as well. So it was an insane year of growth using my previous kind of engineering background. But on top of that, I thought, why not start a fintech startup at the same time in crypto in the middle of a bear market? What could go wrong? And so I mean,
down for a full house kind of thing. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's definitely that the old adage of your net worth is the 5 people you spend the most time with, and the 5 people I spent the most time with were the people that I worked with. I was in there at 7:30 in the morning, kind of prepping for the day. It's a full-on show. When I was at SoftBank, we were investing in Uber, in WeWork, dealing with the TfL, dealing with other companies in the tech space like Slack and Flipkart and all these other amazing fintech businesses from fintech and regular tech businesses from all over the world, and we were onboarding as many deals as we were staff at the same time. So, how do you spend, 100 billion pounds of investment on tech? You have to do it one deal at a time. And for every deal, you need to bring in 2 people in the finance, 2 people in the legal, 2 people in the deal team. And it exploded so quickly. And I got just absolutely just drunk on working in Mayfair, which is great, but drunk on the size and the scale. And
you mean you did go out, or are you saying you just got drunk on all the work you were doing?
You got to actually, to be honest, it was both.
It's good work and good social kind of thing.
It's work hard, play hard, which I think everybody needs, regardless how hard you want to work on your business and you want to grow it and be global. You literally have to reward yourself every now and then. You still have to be social. You still have to be mindful. You have to be healthy. And hard work is not working 9 till midnight. Hard work is working a 9 to 5 or a 12 to 6 or whatever you find is good. But also, you have to take time off the business in order to grow it. Sitting there and watching it 15 hours a day is not growing a business. Being active in the community and
Getting balance, basically.
building your brand and having balance, all
Mm.
of that stuff is essential. And those are some of the things that I learned during my journey.
Mm.
But I mean, the work I play, I think I was, when I was always an engineer, as my background in infrastructure and engineering and casinos and data centers and stuff like that, was I was always doing projects within a budget or within a timeline or whatever. But with the SoftBank, kind of flipped that narrative on its head. It's like, we want to deliver this and we want the best product to do it. That's obviously going to be scalable across these kind of criteria. So you were building a project to fit a criteria now, not to fit a budget or fit a timeline. And I never had that before. So it's not like having, carte blanche to go spend whatever you want.
Oh, you mean, so what you're saying is when you were working in SoftBank, for example, you weren't constrained. There was kind of like...
There was no constraints. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. It was, how do you deliver the best scalable product? And I think that was a really, really addictive thing to go on, because now it's like, I can go and spend as much money as I want on this networking kit. It's like, will it deliver what it's supposed to? And then you can go to a vendor, not just with the brand behind you, but with the idea, like, are you going to fit this criteria? And you get to choose not just the cheapest tech or the most expensive, whatever, but you get to pick the best product that fits your purpose. And it comes back to choice, right? We could have chosen to go, full Cisco for our switches and for phone system and this, but it didn't give us X. So we chose a different platform that did Y. And I think that was probably the best growing part of my own, I suppose, this was my own journey, or let's call it, career journey, whether it's crypto, blockchain, or tech, is that choosing the best tech for the job was definitely fundamental in how we built our Coinpass.com platform. Is that what do you really need to function? What's the best fit and what's going to be best for our customers and best for our business growth, rather than just, we'll use them because they're the cheapest and they can onboard us the fastest, or they'll give us the best deal or the best whatever. And that was
kind of don't gold plate it, but then also don't
exactly,
and then get them later.
And we've actually chosen some providers in part of our life cycle that we could partner with early, that we could get exactly what we needed right now. That was would be for the right price. It was going to scale out, and they were actually following a very similar roadmap and trajectory to us. I'm like, well, we get everything we want right now, and it's the right price, and it fits exactly our criteria we want. But we've got a real chance to, help shape their product how we think it would be amazing to do as well. So we've gotten onto the ground floor with a couple of providers, whether it's a banking provider, whether it's a custodian provider, something like that, and being able to grow with them and alongside them with a huge amount of hyper, what I call hyper engagement. So we talk to them nearly every week. How do you find it? What's going on with this? Here's and that actually, it's quite interesting when you grow with someone like that, is that they will eventually just start sending you deal flow.
Yeah.
Some of our partners, that they're vendors of ours, they're partners of ours. We build all of our tech in house, but we are not a bank yet. But some of our banking partners send us deal flow now because they know that we can take care of it, because they know that how we approach every single one of our clients is super professional and super high end and hyper engaged. And people could call us on the phone, and we will sit down, and look at a client's requirements, rather than just, do they fit in our spreadsheet? No, next. You don't want to be inflexible. You want to be flexible, but still obviously follow our strict guidelines. Yeah.
It's a quick question. For people that are not as educated or as aware of, this kind of space, how would you describe it in simple terms? What you do with Coinpass? Could you just help?
Yeah. So people are interested in getting involved in the space. There's a lot of noise when it comes to learning about what crypto is, learning about blockchain, etc. But when it comes to actually entering the space, you're not going to go and mine Bitcoin to get your first Bitcoin. Unfortunately, it's not 2011 anymore. So people will want to take a bank transfer or a debit card, and they'll want to go and purchase their first token to even just get involved. To do that, they're that first step, and we are that first step. So we take it exceptionally seriously with people's first steps. That we're building trust, not just with our customer to use our platform and our product, but as a gateway to the rest of the ecosystem. If their first experience of buying their first piece of a Bitcoin is really bad service, really slow, crappy UI, any of that kind of stuff, it doesn't help the rest of the ecosystem. So we're like custodians and entry points for the entire ecosystem, not just our own our own game.
For example, so if I had £100 or £500 or whatever, I wanted to invest in kind of this whole space that you call the crypto world, then they could come to you, they could sign up for an account, and then they'd link their bank account to your platform. Is that?
So you would send us a bank transfer, which happens in a matter of seconds if you're in the UK. Right. You can fund your account with £50, £100, whatever you'd like, and you can purchase your first bit of Bitcoin, your first bit of Ethereum. If it's on our platform, it's protected, it's completely secure. But if you want to remove that and take it into your own custody, or then swap it into another token, then that's obviously your free choice as well. And we promote not only healthy choice in the market as well. We want to educate people. So we make podcasts just like the one we're talking about today. We promote, do a lot of article writing and education to inform and educate people. And we want to have an engaged community. So across Facebook and Twitter and those other kind of things, we're engaging with our customers to not only educate them on how our product is being built, how they can use it, how they can benefit from telling their friends with referrals, but also giving them kind of key advice and key learnings.
It's like, so it'll be like a member kind of scheme.
Exactly. And I think, you'll agree with this, Andrew, as well. Like in this space where we meet up all these other events, is that people that kind of come in for the first time may feel like they kind of have a stupid question or they don't understand it enough, but they kind of leave with more questions than they ever arrive with. And I want to learn what Bitcoin is. And then suddenly they're like, well, what is fiat currency? What is the banking system? What is all this other stuff that I've taken for granted my whole life? How is this different and better?
Well, there's a lot of what I would call TLAs and FLAs. Three-letter acronyms, four-letter acronyms. It's when you start to get involved in this space, which I started getting involved a few years ago. It's a bit of a kind of what the hell is this thing? Yeah. Then you actually go through it, and it's not. It's just the buzzwords that people use in this space.
Exactly.
It's kind of like a special lexicon of language, isn't it?
And I think it depends on what you really want to get out of it, which I think is probably my favorite thing about the space is that, if you want to trade and use it as a speculative vehicle, you want to trade on volatility and make money, that's fine. You want to use it as a way of, self-custodying your own wealth. So like, your money in the bank is not actually your money. It's a digital format of it. You want to take it out, you have to go and get physical cash, which devalues quickly, or you have to go and buy it into gold or silver or something like that, and then you have to secure it yourself in your house, which can be dangerous.
You can always put that box in the shoebox under your bed.
You can put it in the shoebox under your bed, depending on what kind of bed you have. Exactly, you can bury it in the backyard. Hopefully, you remember about it. Or you can use crypto for what is originally designed for, as a peer-to-peer way to do payments. And there's something here for everyone, and that's what I think I like the most.
So what you can say you can do. So I could buy those different cryptocurrencies, as if people call them, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and I presume Litecoin, and all the different types. And then you then hold a position in your account, that you will then administer and manage on behalf of the client.
So we don't do any trading on behalf of the client. We're not that sort of business at the moment. That might be in our future in a few years' time. But essentially, you could buy that crypto and secure and store it on our platform and hold it. Hold it. We will be introducing some interest rate products in the future. So the longer you hold on our platform, and you'll accumulate interest over time. Like the ultimate kind of savings account.
So like the Bank of Hodlers kind of thing.
Bank of Hodlers, but obviously doing it in kind of a one-stop shop, so you're not having to move between platforms. And then if you want to, people can withdraw it. They can put it on their, on their mobile or on a ledger or whatever they want. Or they may want to trade it into something that we don't support, which is fine as well. The one thing we wanted to do different in this space compared to a lot of other companies is we never wanted to handcuff our users. We didn't want to handcuff the people that wanted to use our platform, because if you want to, we have to build trust with a client 3 times before they, even transact with us. So you have to sign up, you have to do KYC, you have to send funds from your bank. There's 3 exercises there. And we do that exceptionally well. We do it faster with better service than anybody else. But when you actually then go take the plunge and spend your first £100, for all intents and purposes, while you own that Bitcoin, some people sometimes feel the need that they want to transfer it to another wallet and transfer it back to ensure that it's even real, which I completely agree with as well. Because until you actually, transact in Bitcoin and move between wallets, some of these platforms, like some ones that have collapsed really, really badly, in the past that we've heard about, like the Mt. Gox ones, like Quadriga in Canada, they never had the actual funds to to back up what they're actually selling, which is a really, really bad state of affairs for the market. And it's done
I
nothing.
mean,
It's done nothing but draw really negative press on us. So it makes it difficult for a
yeah.
really professional business like us to stand apart from a lot of the junk out there.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, if you look on the App Store for Google or Apple, the number of wallets that are out there, it's just mind blowing, isn't it? It's tens of different wallets, but which ones do you trust? That's the thing as well.
Exactly, and I think there's probably a bigger disservice at the moment. I feel, at least in parts of the market, which after really get rich quick, trying to lure people in that don't represent a really legitimate business in the back end. You can't find out who the founders are. You can't find out the jurisdiction that the business is in. And I think those, as just a very, very 5-minute due diligence, if you can't find the country that company is from, of who makes it, that should be a massive red flag. If you can't find the jurisdiction they're in or any licenses they might hold, if they need them or not, that's another massive red flag. And then if their social media exposure is purely on they've got a really round number of followers somewhere they've clearly purchased, those are some other red flags as well. So it's very easy these days, that we've shown with tech, that you can build a bootstrap business very, very quickly. And some people are kind of taking that to another level of obfuscating what they're actually selling, which doesn't help any new people come into the market. It actually kind of hurts everybody else.
Well, I suppose I was speaking to one of the CTO, one of my good friends was a CTO of a very big company recently, and it's obviously in the last 2 weeks, because obviously this whole Wirecard thing has hit, which I think has probably shocked quite a few people. But he was saying, this guy was saying that actually a lot of the banks were embracing fintech and smaller innovators, and it's actually kind of scared them a bit, because obviously they Wirecard are being embraced quite extensively as part of the payment processing infrastructure, and yet that has happened. It's quite interesting.
I think the real scare on the back of that as well was a lot of how many businesses were built on top of someone else's technology.
Correct.
You have service providers, you have agreements, you have all this kind of stuff, but the ultimate bit, which is obviously on every single agreement you'll ever read, is what's the insolvency? And obviously it's one of those, it'll never happen to us, we're massive. Okay. But then when you get to these, it's kind of almost like an Enron moment, right? There were big false bit of capital on the balance sheet that never existed, and it was a story on Monday, and then the internet happened, as I like to say, and it was completely insolvent by Friday. And then we did a podcast on this about 2 weeks ago, and we talked about kind of the knee-jerk reaction of the regulators on stopping in-CC operations immediately, which stopped a whole slew of banking providers or payment providers or other apps from operating in their own home country, because they happen to be partnered with Wirecard or a Wirecard subsidiary. And it was it was mayhem. And if you use them as an issuer, you've now got to find the acquiring bit, actually doing the actual movement of money. You could change those over pretty quick with a bit of software, but actually like having physical cards issued to clients that now don't work, you've now got to find a new issuer overnight, and you've got to issue how many clients do you have? 10, 15,000? You got to issue 15,000 cards overnight. What a nightmare.
It's like these guys.
Which is on Tide?
Curve.
Oh, okay. I haven't got a Curve one. Were they on Wirecard, were they?
They were, yeah.
Okay, so now they have to go and issue new cards to every single person. That's a huge business cost they've got to go and incur now. And it was a real shame, because we talked about were there red flags before this. If they were getting their books audited by one of the big four, was there a failure of the auditors that didn't spot this earlier? Was it a failing?
It wasn't a small amount either, was it? It was like
2 billion. Yeah, 2 billion. But these there's agreements with some Filipino banks that weren't as genuine as they say they are. So there's another layer of fraud there. And did the German regulator take a bit of time off from regulating their unicorn of the fintech industry? This big player that came out of nowhere and did all these really is a really great platform. But were they kind of, was their chain a little bit too loose? There's a lot of stuff there which was a knee-jerk reaction to how some of these businesses are built and offer their services to other B2Bs, which at the end ends up hurting the clients, the B2B2C. They're actually using these platforms. So it was a very sombering moment seeing something like that happen, and just the speed at which it happened was definitely surprising.
Yeah, I mean, I saw there was a 11FS, the financial services outfit with David Breer runs. They did a session with just on Wirecard a few weeks ago, and I think the COO of Curve was on that call. So I think it impacted multiple people. So it's interesting.
Mm.
Yeah, it's yeah, I mean, I think it's this thing about that there's obviously it's that balance between regulation, compliance, and innovation, and how do you manage all that kind of stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, there's always an argument that regulation will hamper innovation, and innovation needs no regulation to do what it needs to do. I mean, look what Bitcoin's done over the last 10 years, with no form of regulation and being completely decentralized. It's
Yeah,
kind of built what we have today. But at the same time, any financial market that's out there has some form of regulation on it in order to grow. So payment processors, the forex market, the equities bond market, all those kind of markets have regulation on them. Some heavier than others, but it's the only way that this market can become legitimate is when the endpoints or the trading venues or whatever space has some form of regulation on it to ensure anti-money laundering and to ensure safe and safe and efficient markets.
yeah. So if we see, I mean, that's a really interesting introduction, and thank you for sharing that. It sounds like you got a fascinating opportunity with Coinpass. I suppose if we step back a little bit because this is a G&T Sessions podcast about growth and technology, gifted and talented people. So on your personal G, then I mean, obviously people have interesting stories that they share where sometimes people share their peaks, but then sometimes people don't always share their valleys. So are there any peaks or valleys that you would like? I mean, I know you
yeah,
on the
definitely.
SoftBank thing.
So
What is your kind of? So it sounds like you're obviously from Australia originally, but in that I'm not saying chart every event, but
so I mean, definitely towards the last 3 or 4 years of my career, I've had quite a lot of highs, and that's just the culmination of everyone's journey, kind of all of it coming together at the same time and using all of your experience, etc. But back I came to the UK in 2010. I started in my first ever IT job was in hotels and casinos in Australia,
okay,
which is I got thrown literally in the deep end. I was running away from a very mediocre job that I didn't like, and I had felt like I'd been left behind a little bit by some of the education system. The way that we grade getting into university in Australia is very, very antiquated and very unfair. They basically grade everyone on a bell curve, and if a certain part of the bell curve isn't filled, you kind of slide into a position.
okay,
So we had 150 people in our school, and you get ranked from 1 to 25. 1 being your
I like the normal distribution.
yeah. So your OP1s or your first place finishers will be like your doctors and etc. And the people at the end of the scale, will I don't know what the end of the scale of the job is there, but obviously never go to secondary education and either probably never have a job or always be at a low pay grade. And some of the cool kids didn't decide to turn up to the final set of exams. So that means out of the 150 people, 30 of them are not going to they don't qualify for a score. So those people that are in the middle, and I was pretty much in the middle, they all slide down into a different position.
Okay.
So the minimum grade to get into IT and management services, University of Australia, is about an OP10. I was scheduled to get an OP10 or predicted, and I slid down to like an OP15 because you have to fill the bell curve. And that's just how aggressively it fell. And I was one of about 50 students that did not get into their first elective at university because of how unfair that was. So that that really kicked me back. I went immediately into into working instead of going to university. So I missed my first year of uni. So my social status changed. I didn't stay in touch with any of my friends. That was definitely a low point. I got back into a year after you can elect to pay to go to university part-time to upgrade your score,
right?
And I went and did that. I spent $9,000 of my own money with working bar jobs and all this other kind of stuff, and racking together every bit of money I could to do a year of university part-time. And I got my score back up to a 10 so I could apply and get into what I want to do now. And then they changed the entry criteria from a 10 to an 8. So I've just done a year of work for $9,000 and got nothing from it. So I, went back into work, and I had 3 jobs, and I, built my first race car, and I did all this other kind of stuff. And then it was, I had this realization of, I'm constantly behind here. There's no way I can get in front. And
But just
I then,
a quick question on that. It sounds like you felt like you were behind because
yeah,
you hadn't gone down the normal pattern of going through school, high school, and then going to university. You thought
yeah, but
straight to work.
that was some of those choices were made for me. You know, that I
Right.
was some people that don't turn up to one exam after 12 years of schooling. 30 people decided not to turn up to an exam because they are better than society. I don't know.
Mm.
And now my entire, educational future and my career future pivots on these other people not turning up to an exam. I'd done everything I needed to do for 12 years of
Oh,
my life.
I see. Because so
Yeah.
what you're saying is that because of the lack
The
of
way this,
turning up for the exams, then you got pushed into a.
yeah. So I still answered the exam the same way. I still did the same answers. I would have gotten the same score, but the way that the education system's designed is that
Yeah.
my finishing score and basically the score that tells a university how smart I am or how
Mm,
educated I am or how qualifying I am to go into
mm,
secondary education now is completely morphed
skewed.
and manipulated,
Mm,
skewed
yeah.
from an OP15. I think is kind of you're about a low C kind of
Right.
if you talk about ABCD, kind of a low C. I was predicted to finish on kind of like a mid B to a low B,
Mm,
and that doesn't sound like a lot, but that could be the difference between passing a test and not passing.
right. Yeah.
And that was it was heartbreaking when I was like, how I was like 17 years old,
Mm,
saying that no, you can't do this, you can't do this, you have to go and do this now. That was devastating. Working really hard for a long time to have nothing to show for it was devastating. So I went into different type of education into like a college where you pay to go to college and it's
mm,
hands-on skills. And I
mm.
did IT and project management. I did a 2-year course in 11 months because I didn't want to hang around.
Right.
And a couple of weeks later, I got my first proper tech job in casino and hotel. And I got
Where
completely
was
thrown
that?
in.
Where was that? Were you
That was in the Gold Coast in Australia. So one of the
what
companies in
Surfers?
Australia,
Surfers Paradise.
yeah, Gold Coast Service Paradise, yeah. And that was a big company called Tabcorp. They own 4 casinos and hotels across Australia. So I used to do projects across all 4 of those sites because I didn't have any kids or a mortgage or any stuff like that.
This is
So
when you were in your early
I
20s.
got sent, yeah, early 20s. So I was 21 years old, getting sent up and down the country doing IT stuff, and it was great. I loved it.
This sounds like an ideal job, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
no, no, it was because I used to do, and this gets to one of the other, one of the other peaks, right? I went and studied really hard on IT and tech stuff, and they needed, really hands-on, tech engineers to go and do these huge projects over multiple sites.
Mm.
And we had 3,500 staff.
Wow.
Just at the Gold Coast, I knew most of them by first name. I used to work between, the eye in the sky security guys, between the floor
All
staff,
right.
between the pit
Yeah.
bosses, between finance, between the vault,
Mm.
which is not like any Ocean's 11 sort of film. They don't have 2 guards with Uzis. They've only got 1 guard with a shotgun, but because the hallway's really long and really straight, he will see you coming. And it was just a lot of this old school stuff that was just so interesting to learn, and
Mm.
just the data and the numbers and the scale and how much of a well-oiled machine it was. It
Mm.
was a truly addictive place
Was
to
that a
work in.
private business then as well? Was it owned by
Casino, you believe it or not, casinos are businesses. Yes,
No, no,
casinos are private businesses.
was it owned by? Was it? It wasn't listed. It was a private business owned by an individual.
Is Tabcorp listed? It's a good question. Maybe someone could Google that on the podcast. I think Tabcorp's a listed company, but it's businesses within businesses.
Yeah.
And the Tabcorp business in Australia was hotels, casinos, keno and gaming, horse racing.
Oh,
A
okay. Right. Okay.
lot of different stuff.
Entertainment. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Entertainment, exactly. And I mean, the cool bit about that is that I was exposed to so many different parts of the business because we worked in all of it. We worked with
Mm-hmm.
hotel and bars, and and
But it's critical, isn't it? Critical for
it's
the whole running of the business.
critical.
Mm.
And we were working as we weren't just doing IT and looking after servers. We were operating parts of the business because for security, a
Mm.
lot of it's air gapped. So
Right.
certain data warehousing jobs or certain things for casino gaming, there's a legal requirement for the
Mm.
casino cage to be offline for 5 minutes per day for a change in shift and a change of chip. So
Okay.
and you can't have the casino staff doing it. It has to be done by IT. So we would
Although,
take
like segregation of duty and all that kind of stuff.
segregation of duty for
Right.
security, and we are behind, a 300-foot corridor that turns like this in front of like 12 cameras, with a fingerprint and retina locked magnetic door. So you physically can't get into our office to mess stuff up.
You're like the Tom Cruise of
Something like that.
surfers.
But and that's what I mean. It was an amazing time in my career because I learned so much so quickly, and it was, in this huge greased wheel of it just ran. and there was, lines of fallback and lines of security and all this other kind of stuff, which really set me up to, work into different kind of enterprises and really understand a business from a tech perspective as well as a delivery perspective.
Yeah.
So when I eventually moved to the UK and came into data centers and I work with clients on specific projects, I can see it as, they want to put in this particular system, which an engineer would just, I'll go put it in, cool, here's the passwords, off you go. But why are they putting that system in and what is it supposed to do?
Yeah.
So we can communicate with each other. Why do you need to communicate with each other? Because we do this with our customers. Where are your customers? And I can have a much more informed conversation with them on delivering that project in the most effective way, but also I can probably spot some stuff that they're missing.
The risks.
What are you doing for the other kind of unmitigated risk that a normal service provider will like, well, we're selling them a product and we do the project and we sign the invoice and it's awesome and we support it and we get paid $200 a month.
Just switch the server on by. Yeah.
Off you go. And what I wanted and what I did in the managed service business when I first moved here was I used to take it to not just the next level, but I take it to a different definition of level. Not just your documentation and your follow up, but how does this business going to use the service the best? How are they going to leverage it? How are they going to grow? Because if your clients aren't growing with you, you're actually doing them a disservice. You're not really helping them. In which I think some of those service businesses will eventually kind of die because there are freelancers and individual guys leveraging stuff like Slack and Google and 365 Teams, and they are replacing a lot of managed services very, very cheaply and effectively.
Yeah.
So there's almost this kind of shift when we had the horse and carriage to the Ford Model T, as those guys had to then go and learn how to build something new.
It's like it's like moving to more lights out computing, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. And that was again a massive opportunity to come over to the UK and scale up and skill out and do some different stuff. Instead of being inside one casino the whole time, I was in 5 different offices every day of the week. And then what kind of happened was that my employer at the time saw it as, well, there's a really great asset, we can scale out and we can build this business up. But my learning new information and learning new systems and certifications and stuff kind of tapered off really drastically. And because that business was scaled and bringing new clients in, instead of retaining them, it was very heavy on kind of one side. So I had like 7 different hats to wear. I was helping with support, helping with infrastructure, helping with project, helping with sales, with pre-sales, and getting a very mediocre wage from it. Right. And eventually to work, again, start to feel like, well, what am I really doing here? I'm just doing a 9 to 5. It wasn't 9 to 5, it was kind of 9 to 9, right? Because you take your work home with you.
Who does a 9 to 5 these days? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And all the people around me were very, just happy with doing the minimum. And I started to feel like I was kind of falling back into back into high school, just doing kind of what you're told and doing clock in, clock out. And I wanted more from that, not just from in a financial sense, but from a mindfulness and education and skills, and I just wanted more, right? Yeah. So I started learning about investing. I started bought my first investment property. I started doing some trading. Eventually came off that working visa and got into consulting and contracting, and that's how I ended up at SoftBank, with obviously that whole slew of different projects with different scales in different countries for 5 years. They recognized that as a really good opportunity to go and do something new, and then getting the carte blanche when I was in SoftBank to do these started off as a small scale project, and someone's like, well, can you make it go across all these other offices as well? Like, whoa, okay, it's kind of out of scope. Like, how many people we talk about? Well, you scale it for 500, can you scale it to 5,000? I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? And it was kind of a different challenge, but now you're, like I say, you're taking the best product possible for the best delivery possible, but now you're also going down, the nth degree is really important now. How are we using that to, execute a deal and talk with our counterparties and, deliver the best service with the best product? You were talking about how do multiple products fit together. And it was just this other layer of complexity, which again was super challenging in a really cool environment with really, really talented people around you. And you didn't want to be the person towing the line. And so I got to this huge, big, surge in my career of doing something I really, really loved and enjoyed. And that's where crypto started coming back around. And that's where a lot of people are asking me, it's like, you're doing this and you're consulting and you're trading and you're investing, and how do I buy Bitcoin in the UK with like £5,000? That's good service, that's legitimate, that's professional. That I don't want to do US dollars. I don't want to do euro.
Oh, so you kind of saw a gap. You saw some white space.
That was our gap when
combination characteristics of things that you could do. Yeah, okay.
Exactly. When 3 or 4 people came to me within a few months of they wanted to put some really big positions on there, but they didn't want any FX exposure, and there was no that I could really recommend. So I went back to the same people that asked me, how do we do it? I'm like, let's build it.
Mm.
And then, oh, okay, I don't have a reason to say no to that. So we pooled some of our resources. We, got a developer on. We found a bank. We got some liquidity together, and we, just listed Bitcoin. Let's just do it for 100 people. Let's just make it work, and then see what sticks to the wall.
And you bootstrap that, then you
we completely bootstrapped it. Yeah, so Coinpass was originally a different name. It was called Get FIFO originally, and it was Get Funds In, Get Funds Out. And the aspect of how that business grew.
First in, first out is get funds in, funds out, rather than
funds in, funds out. Yeah, exactly. And well, again, it was a confusing name come up with on a napkin very, very quickly. And within about the first 4 months, because we were profitable in our first 4 months as a business, and quickly added a few more assets and more and more users, got the first few business users on board, and we quickly knew that we had a winning formula there, but the brand didn't reflect the vision that we'd kind of set out for ourselves. So Coinpass is much more recognizable. It's a .com. It's about Bitcoin and trading straight away, and the kind of sub brands we have off that work really, really effectively as well. So Coinpass Instant is, you guessed it, instant access to crypto. Coinpass Trade, if you're more of a trader, you can trade on our platform. So Coinpass Mobile, Coinpass Business, these are our kind of products now that sit under our brand, and they are kind of a very, very simple way to understand what we do. Coinpass Business, if you're a business and you want to trade on an API, you want to put our platform into your app, then we can have a business partnership, no problem.
I've heard your swag's pretty good as well.
Yeah, we've got a few giveaways going on at the moment. So we've got some Coinpass shirts and some Coinpass hoodies. So make sure you check us out on Twitter. We're going to be doing them for the next few months. They're very, very popular.
What colour and sizes? All colours and sizes?
Mostly black at the moment. We're sticking to our corporate colours at the moment, which is
Henry Ford. It's available, everything in black.
Everything in black. So we did have some really limited edition white hoodies. We only did 5 of them. So there's only 5 white hoodies in existence.
That's the one that I saw you with, isn't it?
There's only 5 of them, and I have one. The other directors have one. I believe James Bowater has one, and I believe actually there's 6. I lie actually. I believe one's in the custodianship of Daniel Steinberg. So Steinberg Doll. So he's been a good friend of ours for a while as well. Right. And also I believe James Harris from Crypto Compare. He's one of the other ones. So there are 6 white hoodies out there, and I know where they all are. So if I see you with a white hoodie, I'm going to know who gave it to you.
You see it on eBay or something like that. Yeah.
You see it on eBay, I'm going to know whose it is. Yeah, I should have RFID'd it. There you go.
Yeah, you could have a serial number on it.
You could have a serial number, or put them on the blockchain, right? So. No, we will do some more interesting stuff. I think we're going to start doing some other colors, some other designs, using them as not only as a marketing tool, but merch is cool. Crypto is good, and you can send it instantly and etc. But we think having a bit of merch you can not just wear proudly, but as a cool bit of kit. We like giving cool stuff to engage people. So we'll continue doing the merch for a while. We may even do a merch store just to kind of cut that.
Well, I mean that's what people are starting to do. I mean, you're obviously doing the media company, the podcast stuff, which obviously I started a few years ago with the G&T sessions, and but I think merchandise also seems to be quite important as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's good brand recognition, but if it's a brand that you like using and has a cool logo and it does exactly what it says in the tin, then I say why not? If they become as popular as they have been, we've given a few away so far. On a social media front, it's really cool, but no, we'll put them up for sale for exactly what they cost us, make them cheap.
Yeah.
Not too cheap. They're still quality material and stuff. They keep me warm. Not during summer. I think hoodies in the summer is a bit of a mistake, but it gets breezy in the UK.
Coinpass budgie smugglers. That's what you need to see next.
Budgie smugglers. Oh god, as long as I don't model it, it'll be fine.
If you're an Aussie, you see, you can't not have any trunks. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I know.
You're always naked, jumping around in the water.
So we have some ideas for some maybe some pocket squares, some socks, backpacks. So that kind of stuff on what we might do next.
This is next P&L. He's going to be having his own P&L next.
I'm interested to hear ideas. If there's a bit of merch idea you have, tweet at us and let us know.
No problem. So I suppose so we've talked about the G, which thanks for that, and on the T side, it sounds like it sounds like actually that you got involved in technology at quite a reasonably early age. You saw the opportunity with it, you jumped all in, and it's not as though you obviously use tech. But it sounds like you've been kind of I'm not saying indoctrinated, but you saw the opportunity with it quite early. Is that fair?
Yeah, so I've always been a tech guy, from really, really early on. I've always been interested in tech, connecting with other people all over the world with incredible speed and low effort, etc. I've always been an IT engineer and cybersecurity consultant. So worked in data centers, worked in very large companies, even if they're like retail food brands like I did the entire infrastructure for Ella's Kitchen, which are like a baby food brand. Goo Desserts, which make the little petite desserts you see in Tesco and Sainsbury's. And they're retail facing front, but you think about the back end and the infrastructure for the teams that deploy those. I mean, Ella's Kitchen was 50 people before we took them over, and they scaled to like 350 staff over. Well, they serve 190 countries now. I'm not saying it's just because of the infrastructure we built for them, but they were creaking at the seams at that point in time. They couldn't get their information flow fast enough, and that was kind of hampering their progress. And I like to think that the amount of effort we put into those infrastructures enabled these companies to go and do some really, really cool stuff. And that's a really cool part of our story, is that being involved with tech doesn't mean you have to be an IT nerd sitting in the background. It means taking your technological understanding and giving it a really, really good application. You could be the smartest guy in the world, but if you can't relate it to someone, then it's kind of pointless. If you can build a really cool infrastructure and no one uses it, then it's a wasted opportunity. Boiling that down into how someone interacts with an app or interacts with a brand, I think is an invaluable skill. So I think the cool thing about that in blockchain is that people that maybe don't understand blockchain from a technical perspective or even a trading and investment perspective, there are still so many translatable skills that will come over into this space, and they just need to kind of give it a try, do a bit of research, and come and join us on the moon.
On the moon, okay.
On the moon.
I thought you were saying Mars.
No, we're going to the moon, remember? But for the text,
joining with Elon on SpaceX on the Mars.
Yeah, you go. So the tech stuff I've always been interested in, as a job, as I found it very easy to begin with, and then obviously it became more complex as I got more involved. But I think now with some of the opportunities that are out there for banking, for trading, for fintech, for health, for all the other kind of stuff out there, it is we are almost at the cusp of what the next technological boom is going to be, and I don't think anyone's kind of really sure what that's going to be. Whether it's the AI stuff, more machine learning, taking care of our finances, taking care of all the other things under everything under the sun. I think energy is a really interesting sector as well. Augmented reality. I think those are still only just beginning to kind of kick off. And I think everyone, regardless what part of their life they're in, part of their career they're in, what their interests are, everyone's either interested and involved with tech, whether they like it or not.
Yeah, I mean, I think the interesting thing is it's become more and more important. I mean, when I got involved in technology, obviously a few decades ago, people were saying, "Why are you doing that? Why are you getting involved in that? It seems a bit weird." And then obviously, when I kind of then started to work in bigger companies, and now what I see is, to your point, it's a bit of a renaissance. Yeah, with you, your tech background, cybersecurity, all that kind of stuff, it's absolutely intrinsically foundational to running these businesses these days. So actually, and you think about blockchain, Bitcoin, it is quite technical at a certain level. Obviously, you don't really need to understand the technicalities, but it is quite involved. That's my observation with it. But I find it quite amusing that now there's the kind of, I remember seeing an article in the what was it? It wasn't the Evening Standard, or it might be Metro. I mean, Evening Standard, I think, the London paper. It said it's basically graduates can either go for Google or Goldman Sachs. Literally, it's that kind of level of people who normally come out of university, like Oxbridge or whatever, and they normally apply to the city and then try and get a internship and obviously an analyst job in Goldman's. And now they're saying, "Oh, forget Goldman's. I'm going to Google. I'm going to a tech firm." So,
yeah, well, I had a similar thing. Was the if you couldn't make it in Wall Street, you'd end up in crypto. But it's kind of now if you can't make it in crypto, you end up on Wall Street.
Really? Is that what you swapped around?
I read. I didn't say it. I would never. But no, it's just one of the that narrative of the tech is going in a direction now. A lot of these companies have kind of seen the light that if it's not Bitcoin, let's take a step back, look at the tech for a moment. It's it can be completely decentralized or it can be centralized. It can be permissioned or it can be non-permissioned. So there's a lot of choice there straight away. There's a way that all of our departments at all times, anywhere in the world, can look at the same data instantaneously with a huge layer of security and immutability. So the problem with some of these, either centralized platforms or security leaks, where it's going to be, is they have a central database somewhere, and they have to back it up, and they have to
like
keep
a single point of failure, kind of.
Exactly, and they have to keep it in. They have to keep the integrity of it up. And if there's, a rogue agent, or an analyst, or a database administrator, that changes that source of truth. The wildcard thing.
All they do is they do an actual like drop database.
Drop the database. Well, it was Equifax. They had access to one of their core user databases available via a web page with the username and password of admin, because they were doing that.
Really?
Yeah, they were doing it was about 2 years ago. One of their data leaks was they were doing an integration with one of their partners, and for part of the integration, they had to have a web front end or a web page to do some of the work.
Web access.
Like a web access. So they very easy to create a web access.
Admin.
Yeah, and because they were using it as an internal source.
Was a public link?
Well, it wasn't a public link, but I mean, with enough scanning power, you can scan the internet with a laptop. It'll take you several weeks, but you can scan every port of every IP address in a couple of weeks. So it's just an IP address that had port 80 open. So okay, what is this IP address with port 80? And it happened to be a username password screen with an Equifax in the corner.
We're just connect to that IP address and bang, you're in.
Yeah, just on a web browser, go to Google 212.80. Whatever, and they threw a password breaker on it, and obviously the first.
It was
very simplified. Yeah,
three microseconds.
Yeah, is the first password of any dictionary password hacker is going to be admin and password, or admin and admin. And they had access to 23, 30, or 30 million user worth of data.
Guys, we're in.
They're in.
Well, how much data do you want?
Exactly. And I mean, that was, how long was that open for? Who did that? Trace back to 2 or 3 engineers. But taking that that centralized highly compromisable approach, that anyone that has core access to this database can actually manipulate it and change a 0, change a 1. And no one's really going to know about it unless you have an audit log, which, guess what, is still in a centralized server, which can be deleted. So you've got this, this.
You can tidy up. You can tidy up and like brush up and say, "Oh no, I wasn't really."
Exactly. No, exactly. And
wow.
Yeah, just that whole that ideal alone is kind of scary. Then you take a step back, like, well, we can have this. It's an immutable. It saves it from malicious. It saves it from this. So even if there was some sort of compromise where they have, they have access to our blockchain, but they've got none of the keys, so they can't actually read it. That's incredibly secure. Well, we only want this part of the information to be readable to people because they have that level of access. You can use a permissioned blockchain. So the tech, even on an internal basis or an external basis, is a very, very interesting piece of technology. You've got companies and subsidiaries and sub-subsidiaries all looking at the same data in the same real time. That's a huge cost saving measure, and a huge just think about data recon. Who has access to what? Well, we can see that in real time. We don't have to go and do a big crazy audit. There's a lot of those things which are going to trim out fat from the industry from a tech point of view. It's going to promote increased data security, because once it's written on there, you can't change it, or even if you can change it, you need the right key. And who are those keys issued to? Only a few select individuals. But imagine you get 2 companies operating on a same or similar chain, or interrupt, doesn't matter. You now can do either do business or integrations or partnerships on a much greater level, where I can't send you my list because of GDPR, and I can't send you this because of data security, but we can work together with 1% of overlap. Well, no, I can actually read their entire database, what I need to read in order for us to do business, because they can issue me a key that only gives me what I have access to. I can access everything, but only what I need. I don't need their users' email addresses, nor do I want it. But if we're talking about trading data, or we're talking about fitness, or we're talking about something like that, then companies working together smartly and effectively has almost an unlimited scope. And I think the sooner that financial markets catch on to it, the sooner that payment processes catch on to it, the sooner that central banks catch on to it, which they slowly are with central bank currencies, the better that everyone can start leveraging this technology for what it was originally built for.
Oh, so what you're saying is one of your kind of, I suppose you touch on your predictions, and what you're saying is if you can see people, because it's kind of like you could call a bit of a nascent market. It's a bit early, yeah. Even it's
Still
10 years,
very early.
it's over
Oh,
10
still very
years
early.
old, but it's still early.
Mm.
But what you're saying is that as the mass adoption happens and it becomes more like part of the furniture or part of the future pattern of deployments, then it will remove it. Then all these previous issues will be removed because basically there's no way you can break it.
Something like that, yeah. So I think definitely the user interface, you won't even know it's a blockchain. You're not going to have to pay for a gas fee and all that kind of stuff.
Visible. Yeah,
But I mean, I think people's relationship to money will kind of speed up and match that as well. Our relationship to money now is like, the next kind of generation that's coming in now, whatever Gen ZZ or Z1 or whatever you want to call it, is their relationship to money is going to be
it's Gen Alpha now. Gen Alpha is
Alpha. Back to A. Oh, good.
Yeah,
Okay,
we're back
good.
to it. There's Jackie Taylor who came on the show the other month. She's been looking at this whole Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, and my two sons Ben and James are actually Gen Alpha, which is 6 to 16.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it's gone back to
A. Oh, good. But we're saying that, I mean, their relationship to money is going to be purely digital. Their relationship to money is going to be, what did you use paper for? You've got it on your mobile phone. That's really inefficient. Let that scene out of Back to the Future 2. It's like you have to play that game with your hands. It's going to be like you had to pay for something with a bit of paper. Like, why? It's faster, more scalable. I get my cash back now. I get my rewards tokens now. I get my, you know what I mean? It's instant. So the whole thing of having, coins and notes, this is already foreign. We already have, like Revoluts and payment cards where I can have access to every currency that I need. Last year I went through for a month and went through 4 countries in a month that I didn't touch any physical fiat currency once. So I had no leftover. So I could change the €2.20 I had left over at the airport. I could change that back into pounds instead of having it.
You didn't lose the exchange stuff.
No, you got to pay a small commission, a small fee, but would I rather lose €2 and lose it and never touch it again? Essentially dead money, which does nothing to inflation. Or would I rather have the ability to have most of it back, or to put it into my pension or into Bitcoin? Into these choices that we have now is amazing. It's awesome. And kind of what I'm really interested in what kind of comes next, where it'll be a blockchain layer, but you don't need to know that. All digital currencies, currencies that we know it as fiat currencies, pound, euro, US dollar, will be digitally issued instead of physically issued. They'll have some sort of either centralized or semi-decentralized ledger, to where we as the people know how much of that currency is in actual circulation. Hope to stop money laundering and the guys that are ruining it for everybody else. Fungibility will be a really interesting conversation. Like this £10 note is the same as this £10 note, but if that's ever been used for illicit means, maybe I don't want that £10 note. And you actually be able to see, is that some sort of illicit currency or token? We saw it with USDC 2 weeks ago. They'd cordoned off 100,000 USDC sitting in a wallet that was used on some sort of darknet. That 100,000 can no longer be used anymore. So is that a problem for blockchain or a problem for decentralization?
So they trace that particular
trace that particular transaction. Now have locked that wallet. So if it goes out to subsequent wallets and tries to get spread, then all of those wallets are going to be flagged as well. So is that a healthy use of regulation or like an overstep in terms of decentralization? You be the judge. But I think where we could go with it in terms of really accurate tax records, because in school, you are not taught how to do your taxes. You are not taught how to invest. You are not taught how to do due diligence. You are not taught about risk. And now with some of the other tech that's there, you can do your taxes accurately, instantaneously. You can access all of the benefits you should be getting access to. There are all these other grants and either tax loopholes or claiming your expenses back and doing stuff as laid out in the tax code. Some accountants can't keep up with that. But now you've got, some form of tech. They're not going to just do it for you and be naysaying and not worry about it, but give you, the right advice with the right layer of information that's not all fragmented and disjointed. That's what I think is a possibility, which would be really, really cool and really helpful to a lot of people that need it.
No, it's good. It's good. It's very good. So I suppose just to try and wrap up, because I know you're a busy boy with lots of things on your plate. I mean, I suppose in terms of you talked about some of the predictions already. I think about some of the things you think are going to happen in the future. I suppose, just to kind of draw this episode to a close, it's been a great journey with you already. You've from casinos to SoftBank to your own tech startup. It's fantastic. I mean, if obviously, part of the audience that I'm cultivating with this podcast is about people who have got these great ideas and they want to, prove them in the market, and they want to, launch and scale them. So, if you were talking to some people out there about your experiences and kind of the takeaways and things you would want to share with them, what would be your top kind of things you'd like to share with those kind of people listening today?
So yeah, it's actually a really, really good question, and I think you're asking it because if I take everything that I've kind of learned, stuff that I've succeeded with, so some of the values that we talk about as well, and trying to put that together as maybe a top 3 or something like that, it's really difficult. I would say from a personal standpoint, you have to take care of yourself first, which a lot of people don't want to do as entrepreneurs because they have this big vision. They want to be global. They want to be super rich, or whatever it is, it doesn't matter. You have to look after yourself first because you're the only one that's going to do it. And that's not just paying your rent and getting food on the table and whatever, but really taking care of your physical mind and your physical body. So your mental, mind, physical body. If you can't do those correct, then there's no way you can help anybody else. It doesn't matter how cool your idea is. It doesn't matter, how many investors you have. It doesn't matter if you've got, 1 million users. If you're not there to kind of steer the ship and take care of yourself for your reason why you're doing it, so why you're putting yourself through kind of a start-off hell. If your mind's not there, if your body's not there, one of those two things will give up on you, and you've kind of done it for nothing. So looking after yourself is paramount. I've endured times of stress, and that's manifested into a physical illness where I've been in hospital for a week.
Wow.
What am I doing? What am I doing here? And that was before one of my businesses even got started. So what if I had clients and all this other stuff happening? It would be, you basically destroyed what you've worked so hard to build. Secondly is, find a really good way to effectively skill up, I would say, and there's kind of 2 answers to this. So you need to know about marketing, whether you're in marketing or not. You need to know how to market a product or test an idea. If you go full blown down a track of an idea and a concept and you build something, you put it out there, and now you're at a point you're fighting for customers. Are those customers actually real customers? They're just trying you out. Are you, wasting your time in an endeavor that's not going to get you anywhere because you've built a solution to a problem that doesn't exist? You've built a solution to a problem where people are already doing it better than you, that are better funded, have a market share, have a whatever, and you're just copy and pasting. Being able to test an idea really effectively is good. Being able to research, and that comes down to marketing.
Is that what you call that classic product market fit? Is that what you kind of saying there?
Market fit is probably a way to do it. Due diligence, market research, finding every nook and cranny of the market, or what market you're going into, and overstating that addressable market because it's a £50 billion market. Okay, what is it though?
Well, what's your addressable part of that market?
What's your addressable part of that market? And I think you need to be able to do it top down instead of bottom up. Like, how many people are in crypto right now? Well, roughly 0.5% of the world globally. So your market is X amount of million people. And then they kind of go up from there. Well, what's the average trade size? And they'll go on this average path. They'll say, this is what my company could be worth in 5 years' time. Give me some money. When not looking at the top down of how big is the market? How big is the market growth? And what are the customers I can serve? And then you can build a product at the back of it. And you need to kind of think top down, because if you think bottom up, you're working on a hell of a lot of assumptions, because there's no way you can sell to every customer. There's no way you can sell to every client. Unless you're doing something like a scale of a Coinbase, I suppose, or whatever. So thinking top down of how many people can I actually serve? Not if I get 5% of this market, I'll make this much money. You can't assume you're going to ever capture that amount of the market, because you might be really, really wrong or really, really right.
So are you talking about what you call customer economics then?
Yeah, I mean, a really, really good example. If you go look at Uber's pitch deck, Uber had 3 scenarios. Worst case, best case, and take the lid off the cup and see what happens.
Blow the doors off.
Blow the doors off. And they said, they're going to do this raise, and they could go, taxis are really inefficient. They cost us much money, and tokens and blah blah. So we can grow to a 100-car business in the 2 biggest cities in America, and we could be a 1 to 2 million revenue business a year.
Right.
It's just good. 1 to 2 million in revenue. It's great, right?
Mm.
And I would think like, these are the most popular markets for taxis, and the
Okay.
taxi business is the biggest.
Yeah.
Or we could scale out to to 40% of businesses, 40% of cities in America,
Mhm.
and we really get on the back of this tech this tech push, and it could be a £1 billion revenue company. Nowhere in their pitch did it say we're going to be a global business across every country in the
Right.
world and we're going to control 40% of the market. They didn't anticipate that whatsoever.
Right.
Because
Okay.
they looked at who's our addressable market. Let's go to the two biggest cities where we could capture some market
Or
share.
like New York and San Francisco, presumably.
It was New York and Chicago originally.
Okay. Right. Okay.
Those are the two target ones because that's where taxi cabs were the most used.
Right. Okay.
So you have to go in the street, wait, or you have to call for it, and they're expensive, and you have to wait. There's something on your phone that comes right now.
Mm.
That was the bit. That was their hook.
Right.
And two biggest cities in America will launch there. We might get to 100 cars total. We might get to 100 cars per city.
Yeah.
That'll be 50 staff, and all the drivers are going to be their own business. Great. This is what the revenue model looks like. If we go to every city, the model stays the same. It's just bigger. They never anticipated to go that big because they underestimated their scale, which is a really, really good proposition. So they looked top down. What's the size of the market? Not how much can I capture, but how can we effectively penetrate that market and actually make something? How can our technology go to work? And then just expand it from there. So thinking top down about not what you can capture, about what sales you can make in that market and how you can actually, build something for a target market, as I think probably the most important. And if you spend a year doing that, it's a
Mm.
year well spent because you'll either, prove your idea works, you'll
Yeah.
pivot it 3 or 4 times and make a better product,
Mm.
or you'll decide that, well, what I've actually set out to build is already being done, is
Yeah.
already been really, really well, but
Problem's
actually
already been solved by somebody else. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
or they're still missing a trick and I don't have to build something else to combat them. I can either go to work for them and make it better, or I can make, the
There's
one piece,
the code play.
the
Mm.
one piece that they're missing, I can sell that to them.
Right.
So what you've done, you've actually skilled up your own researching skill. You've skilled up your market testing ability,
Mm.
and you may, start up a landing page, bootstrap it, put a mailing list out there. Who's interested in X? You could test the market without spending any money,
Just
and
a
I
quick
think that
question.
is a really, really interesting skill to have, and that's that kind
Mm.
of almost goes into growth hacking as well.
Just a quick question on that. Was that in that context? Was that before they launched it? Was it like a beta?
Yeah, you can call it a beta. You can even call it a pre-alpha. Before you even built the
Mm.
product,
Yeah. Yeah.
you might do 6 months of research before you even come up with a name,
Right.
and then go out and try and find some people that would be interested in using it. That's your wait list.
Mm.
And then you do your super alpha pre-launch that has one feature in it,
That's
and
that's that's
if
that's,
everyone
that's reassuring.
likes,
That's reassuring for me because actually, in my when I talk about the G&T sessions, I talk about create, prove,
mm,
then launch, then scale.
exactly,
Because
yeah, and I think
that's a proof stage or something, man. So.
exactly, and I think people get really motivated by listening to all these other really inspirational stories about, this first fundraise and they did this and they built this and they were in, you know, 16 different countries within like a year or something like that. And, that only comes with the 2 years before that you never
Yes.
kind of hear about,
Mm.
who were these people before they were Uber and Google and la la la. I mean, they were, you wouldn't be able to find these people out there. So how do you, take their story and then try and, mimic it? You kind of really can't. You have to do your research on your market and what you want to do. And probably comes into the last thing is that, what you are passionate about, what you enjoy doing, doesn't always make a great business. You might be better off being a consultant or being a hobbyist or being a YouTuber, or I don't know, do all of them. But just if you really, really enjoy motorcycles,
Mm.
doesn't mean you should go and start a motorcycle business or a motorcycle shop, or there's probably a lot of things wrong with doing that. But if you're doing something that's a lifestyle business and that could be a component of it, I would think putting your passion into business should be secondary. I think you can follow your passion more closely once you're making enough money to take care of yourself,
Yeah.
once you make enough money to take care of your staff, and that the business can grow by itself, then
Mm.
you can get passion re-involved.
Mm.
I think having passion in there too early is not is a scalable business model. I can say that I love what I do with the brand that we've built, with the customers we take care of, with the market that we're a participant in. I love what I do. But is crypto my passion, then I would say no. I would say travel and connecting with people and educating would be a passion of mine.
And being on the G&T Sessions podcast.
Be on the G&T Sessions podcast for sure. But
Get you here first, Jeff Hancock.
So, but if it, and that's probably just part of my extroverted nature. Being Australian, and I like conversating with people. I love learning new things. I love traveling to new places. I love experiencing stuff. But right now, what does that look like as a business? Well, I look like a travel blogger that gets paid by people on Instagram. It's not a scalable business because that's just me. I'm not a scalable business. I'm a person that has 24 hours in a day, just like anybody else. The scale of the business comes from bringing in sales and bringing in wealth and bringing in revenue and passing most of it onto someone else. Jeff Bezos might have 150 billion in assets, but he helped build 750 billion for other people. Most of that is other people's. And I think that's where you truly become an entrepreneur, where you have a reason why, but it's not about you.
No, that's fascinating. That's really good. Really good. Really good. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having us on. It's been really good fun.
This has been Jeff Hancock, co-founder and CEO of Coinpass. Swag store coming up soon. Thank you so much for the story. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been a fascinating episode, and look forward to. So, if anybody wants to get hold of you or join the Coinpass family,
yeah, for sure.
How did they get hold of you? How do they understand more about Coinpass?
Yeah, so you find everything on coinpass.com. That's all of our obviously the buy and sell platform for crypto and Bitcoin and Ethereum. Mobile app should be out by the time this airs, and all of our social media is at the bottom. You can drop us a tweet at Coinpass Global. Drop us an email to hello@coinpass.com if you just want to say hi and ask a question. We have a full support team, 24/7 that are there to help and ask questions. I dip in there time to time just to try and make sure we're hyper connected with our audience.
Mystery shopper,
yeah, something like that. And yeah, you can get it. Also follow us on LinkedIn as well. We're very active across LinkedIn and Twitter, and starting to produce more and more videos on YouTube as well. So if there's something you want to ask, something you want to see, something you have a really good question on, and we haven't answered it before, then maybe we'll bring you on our podcast and we can talk about it more.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time, and have a great day.
Thanks, guys. I'll see you soon.
Cheers.